the fourth chapter of our book. So, the fourth chapter is what is holding us back. What would happen if you drove your car with that brakes on? You did never go full speed because the brakes would offer resistance. Your car would overheat and break down. If it didn't break down, the resistance would strain the engine. To get to your destination, you would have to make one of two choices. You could either press the accelerator harder and risk damage or release the brakes to make the car go faster. This analogy is a good parallel to life because many of us go through life with our emotional brakes on. What are the brakes? They are the factors that prevent you from achieving success. Fear, procrastination, lack of pride, and so forth. The way to release your emotional brakes is by building a positive attitude and high self esteem and by accepting responsibility. Failure 20 reasons why we don't achieve excellence. Life is like a 10 speed bicycle. Most of us have gears we never use. There are 20 factors that can cause you to fail. But working to overcome these factors, you can release the brakes that are holding back your success. Number 1. Unwillingness to take risk. Success involves taking calculated risk. Risk taking does not mean gambling foolishly and behaving irresponsibly. People sometimes mistake irresponsible and rash behavior as risk taking. They end up with negative results and blame it on bad luck. Risk taking is relative. The concept of risk varies from person to person and can be a result of training. To both a trained mountain climber and a no-wave mountain climbing is risky. But to the trained person, it is not irresponsible risk taking. Responsible risk taking is based on knowledge, training, careful study, confidence, and competence. Factors that give you the courage to act while facing fear. The person who never attempts anything risky makes no mistakes. However, not making the attempt is often a bigger mistake than making the attempt and failing. Indecision is habit forming and contagious. Many opportunities are lost because of indecisions. Take risk but don't gamble. Risk takers move ahead with their eyes open. Gamblers shoot in the dark. Once someone asked a farmer if he had planted wheat for the season. The farmer replied, "No, I was afraid it wouldn't rain." The man asked, "Did you plant corn?" The farmer said, "No, I was afraid that insects would eat the corn." Then the man asked, "What did you plant?" The farmer said, "Nothing. I played it safe." Risk. To laugh is to risk appearing the fool. To weep is to risk appearing sentimental. To reach out for another is to risk involvement. To expose feeling is to risk exposing your true self. To place your ideas, your dreams before a crowd is to risk their loss. To love is to risk not being loved in return. To love is to risk dying. To hope is to risk disappear. To try is to risk failure. But risk must be taken because the greatest hazard in life is to risk nothing. The person who risks nothing, does nothing, has nothing, and is nothing. They may avoid suffering and sorrow, but they cannot learn, feel, change, grow, love, or life. Chained by their attitudes, they are slaves. They have forfeited their freedom. Only a person who risks is free. Number two, lack of persistence. When problems seem insoluble, quitting may look like the easiest way out. It is true for every marriage, job, and relationship. Winners are stuck but not destroyed. We all have had our setbacks in life, but failing does not mean we are failures. What is the difference between persistence and obstinacy? The difference is that persistence represents a strong will and obstinacy represents a strong want. Most people fail not because they lack knowledge or talent, but because they quit. The total secret of success lies in two traits: persistence and resistance. Persist in what must be done and resist from what ought not to be done. A man is a hero not because he is braver than anyone else, but because he is brave for 10 minutes longer. Number 3. Instant gratification. The desire to make a million overnight has made the lottery of flourishing business. We are living in an age of instant gratification. There is a pill for everything from waking you up to putting you to sleep. People want to take a pill to get rid of their problems. In the same way, when people want to be instant millionaires, they take shortcuts and compromises on their integrity. Remember that when going for instant gratification, one never thinks of consequences, only for momentary pleasure. Today's generation defines the ideal diet as one that will take off 5 pounds for good intentions. These are people who don't want any birthdays but want all the presents. When you think short term, not long term, it is limited vision. With limited vision, you will never see any worthwhile goals. Number 4. Lack of priorities. People make substitutions where they ought not to. For example, in relationships, they trade money and gifts for affection and time. Some people find it easier to buy things for their children and supposed to compensate for their absence than to spend time interacting with them. When we don't have our priorities right, we waste time not realizing that time wasted is life wasted. Prioritizing requires discipline to do what needs to be done rather than taking action based on our moods and fancies. These days, too much emphasis is placed on success and failure rather than doing one's best. How do you cope with defeat and problems? Your response to this question says a lot about your character. One of the keys to solving this mystery of success is understanding your priorities. Some people set their side on money, power, fame, or positions. We have to understand our priorities. Success does not come by reading or memorizing the principles that lead to success, but by understanding them and setting your priorities to apply them. Number 5. Looking for shortcuts. No free lunch. A king called his advisors and asked them to write down the wisdom of the ages so that he could pass it on to future generations. After a lot of work, the advisors came up with several volumes of wisdom and presented them to the king. The king called his advisors and said that it was too long and that people would not read it. The king told his advisor they would have to condense it. The advisors went back to work and came back with one volume. The king said it was still too long, so they came back again with one chapter. Again, it was too late long. Even one page was too long, said the king. Finally, the advisors brought back one sentence that satisfied the king. He said that if there was one piece of wisdom that he wanted to pass on to future generations, it would be there is no free lunch. Basically, there is no free lunch means that you don't get something for nothing. In other words, you get what you put in. If you don't put much into a project, you won't get much out of it. Of course, every society has its share of freeloaders who are looking for something for nothing. The easier way may actually be the tougher way. Once there was a lark singing in the forest. A farmer came by with a box full of worms. The lark stopped him and asked, "What do you have in the box and where are you going?" The farmer replied that he had worms and that he was going to the market to trade them for some feathers. The lark said, "I have many feathers. I will pluck one and give it to you, and what will save me looking to worms?" The farmer gave the worms to the lark, and the lark plucked a feather and gave it in return. The next day, the same thing happened, and the day after, and on and until a day came that the lark had no more feathers. Now it could no longer fly to go hunting for worms. It started looking ugly and stopped singing, and very soon it died. The moral of the story is quite clear. What the law thought was an easy way to get food turned out to be the tougher way after all. Isn't the same thing true in our lives? Many times we look for the easier way, which really ends up being the tougher way. Losers look for quick fixes. There are two ways of getting rid of weeds in your yard: the easy way and the not so easy way. The easy way may be to run a lawnmower. The yard looks fine for a while, but it is only a temporary solution. Soon the weeds are back. Not so easy way means getting down on your hands and knees and pulling out the weeds by the roots. It is time consuming and painful, but the weeds will stay away for a longer time. The first solution appeared easy, but the problem remained. The second solution was not so easy, but took care of the problem from the roots. The key is to get to the root of the problem. The same is true of our attitude in life. Some people spread their attitude of bitterness and resentment, and these attitudes keep cropping up in different parts of their lives. The problem with people today is that they want instant answers. They are looking for 1 minute solution to everything. Like instant coffee, they want instant happiness, but there are no quick fixes. This attitude leads to disappointment. Number 6. Selfishness and greed. Individuals and organizations that have selfish attitude have no right to expect growth. Their attitude is to keep pacing the buck without regard for the welfare to others. Greed always wants more. Needs can be satisfied, but greed cannot. It is a cancer of the soul. Greed destroys relationships. Greed comes out of poor self esteem, which manifests itself as false pride, pretense, or keeping up with the Jonas. The way out of greed is to learn to live within your means and be satisfied. Being content does not mean lack of ambition. Where does it end? A wealthy farmer was once offered all the land he could walk on in a day, provided he returned by a sundown to the point at which he started. To get a head start, early the next morning the farmer started covering ground quickly because he wanted to get as much land as he could. Even though he was tired, he kept going all afternoon because he didn't want to lose this once in a lifetime opportunity to gain more wealth. Late in the afternoon, he remembered that the condition he had fulfilled to get the land was to get back to the standing point by sundown. His greed has gotten him far from the starting point. He started his return journey keeping an eye on how close he was to sundown. The closer it got to sundown, the faster he ran. He was exhausted and out of breath, and he pushed himself beyond the point of endurance. He collapsed upon reaching the starting point and died. He didn't make it before sundown. He was buried, and all the land he needed was a small plot. There is a lot of truth in this story and a lesson to be learned. Whether the farmer was wealthy or not, any greedy person would have ended the same way. Number 7. Lack of conviction. People who lack conviction take the middle of the road. And guess what happens to those in the middle of the road? They get run over. People without conviction do not take a stand. They go along to get along because they lack confidence and courage. They conform in order to get accepted even when they know that what they are doing is wrong. Some people consider themselves as a shade better because they do not support the wrong. However, they lack the conviction to oppose. But by not opposing something you know is wrong, you are actually supporting it. One of the important secrets of success is instead of being against something before something, that way you don't become part of the problem but part of the solution. It takes conviction to take a stand. Conviction takes fact. Faithful action is delusion. Faith does not wait for the miracle but produce them. If you think you can or if you think you can't, you are right. We all have low moments, we all fall down and get hurt. We all have moments when we doubt ourselves and endure in self pity. The point is to overcome these feelings and restore your faith. These are three kinds of people in this world. Number 1, people who make things happen. Number 2, people who watch things happen. Number 3, people who wonder what happened. Which category do you fall into? Number 8, lack of understanding of nature's law. How many times it thundered before Franklin took the hint? How many applause fall on Newton's head before he took the hint? Nature is always hinting at us. It hints over and over again, and suddenly we take the hint. Success is a matter of laws, and we are referring to the laws of nature. Change is nature's law. We are either moving forward or we are going backwards. We are either creating or disintegrating. There is no status quo. A seed, if it is not planted in the earth to create, disintegrates. Change is inevitable. It is going to happen whether you like it or not. All progress is change, but all change is not progress. We must evaluate change and accept it only if it makes sense. Acceptance without evolution amount to conforming behavior. and sign of lack of confidence and low esteem. There is a lot to be said about tradition. Growth for the sake of growth is the philosophy of a cancerous cell. It is negativity spreading all over. That is not growth. That is distraction. Growth, in order to be meaningful, must be positive. Success is not a matter of luck, but of laws. Law of cause and effect. In order to succeed, we need to understand the law of cause and effect and the relationship between actions and results. For every effect, there is a cause. The law of cause and effect is the same as the law of sowing and reaping. The laws of sowing and reaping are: you must have the desire to sow. Desire the starting point. What you sow, so shall you reap. If you sow potatoes, you are only going to reap potatoes, not tomatoes. You must sow before you reap. Sowing takes place before reaping. You must give before you get. You cannot expect the fireplace to give heat before you put in the fuel. Some people are constantly looking to get before they give. It does not work this way. When you sow a seed, you reap manifold. If you sow a positive seed, your harvest will be manifold in the positive, and if you sow a negative seed, your harvest will be manifold in the negative. It is not people going against nature's law. A farmer knows that you cannot sow reap in the same day. There is always period of gestation. You sow sparingly, you reap sparingly. You sow abundantly, you reap abundantly. It is like the law of physics. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Most of the time, people are trying to change an effect while the cause remains. Either you consistently feed your mind with positive or negativity automatically fill the vacuum. Many ancient sages have also said what James Allen said in this book. As a man thinketh, a man's mind is like a garden. If we plant good seed, we will have a good garden. If we have don't plant anything, something will grow and that will be weeds. That is nature's law. The same holds true in our lives. In fact, I would go a step further. Even if we plant good seed, weeds would still grow. The process of weeding goes on forever. If you put water in a glass and put it on sub-zero temperature, it will freeze. That is not surprising. This is nature's law. In fact, that is the only thing that will happen. Our thoughts are causes. You sow a thought, you reap an action. You sow an action, you reap a habit. You sow a habit, you reap a character. You sow a character, you reap a destiny. It all starts with thought. Laws of attraction. We attract to ourselves not what we want but what we are. The old phrase, birds of a feather flock together, holds true. Negative thinkers are dangerous. They attract others negative people, react negatively, and expect the worst, and they are not disappointed. Have you observed how at any social occasion successful people attract other successful people? Failure, other failure, and together they will moan, groan, and complain. Our friends are not the kind of people we want, but the kind of people we are. Number 9. Unwillingness to plan and prepare. Everyone has a will to win, but very few have the will to prepare to win. Most people spend more time planning a party or vacation than planning their lives. Preparation. Confidence comes from preparation, which is nothing but planning and practicing. Winners put pressure on themselves. That is the pressure of preparing and not worrying about winning. If we practice poorly, we play poorly. Because as we practice, the difference between success and failure is the difference between doing exactly right and almost right. A complete mental and physical preparation is the result of sacrifice and self discipline. It is easy to be average but tough to be the best. No wonder the average people choose the easy way. Preparations is a necessary aid to succeed in any field. Preparation, purpose, principle, planning, practice, perseverance, patience, pride. Preparation leads to confidence. Preparation means tolerating failure but never accepting it. It means having the courage to face defeat without feeling defeated. Being disappointment without being discouraged. People mean learning from our mistake. There is nothing wrong with making mistake. We all do. A fail is one who makes the same mistake twice. A person who makes a mistake don't correct it commits bigger one. The best way to handle a mistake is to admit to it quickly, not dwell on it, learn from it, never repeat it, not assign blame or make excuses. Pressure comes from being unprepared. There is no substitute for preparation, practice, and hard work. Desire and wishful thinking won't do it. Only preparation will give you the competitive edge. Pressure can paralyze as you if are not prepared. Just as water gravitates into its own path, success, success gravitates to those who are prepared. Weak effort gets weak result. Persistence is the name we give to a purpose, preparation, patience, principles, positive mind, a plan, pride, practice, prize. Ask yourself, do you have a clearly defined purpose? Do you have a plan of action? What effort are you putting into preparation? What price are you willing to pay? How far are you willing to go? Do you have the patience to withstand the gestation period? Are you willing to practice toward excellence? Do you have any firm principle to stand on? Do you have pride in your performance? Do you have the can do attitude? Number 10. Rationalizing. Winners may analyze, but they never rationalize. That is loser's game. Losers always have a book full of excuses to tell you why they could not. We hear excuses like, I'm unlucky, I'm born under the wrong stars, I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm handicapped, I'm not smart enough, I'm not educated, I'm not good looking, I don't have contact, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time. The economy is bad. If only I had opportunity. If only I didn't have family. If only I had married right. The list can go and on. There are two things that determine whether a person will be success. Reasons and result. Reason don't could count while results do. How to catch monkeys in India. Monkey hunters use a box with an opening at the top, big enough for the monkey to slide its hand into. Inside the box and nuts, the monkey grabs the nuts and now its hand becomes a fist. The monkey tries to get its hands out, but the opening is big enough for the hand to slide into, but too small for the first to come out of. Now the monkey has a choice, either to let go of the nuts and be free forever, or hang on to the nuts and get caught. Guess what it picks every time? You guessed it. He hangs on to the nut and gets caught. We are no different from monkeys. We all hang on to keep the nuts that keep us from going forward in life. We keep rationalizing by saving. I cannot do this because, and whatever come after because, are the nuts that we are hanging on to that are holding us back. Successful people don't rationalize. Good advice for failure is don't think, don't ask, and don't listen. Just rationalize. Number 11. Not learning from past mistakes. While one person hesitates because he feels inferior, the other is busy making mistakes and becoming superior. People who do not learn lessons from history are doomed. We learn from failure if we have the right attitude. Failure is a detour, not a dead end. It is delay, not a defeat. Experience is the name we give to our mistake. Some people live and learn, and some only live. Wise people learn from their mistake. Wiser people learn from other people's mistake. Our lives are not long enough to learn only from our own mistakes. Number 12. Inability to recognize opportunity. Opportunities can come disguised as obstacles. That is why most people don't recognize them. Remember, the bigger the obstacle, the better is the opportunity. Number 13. Fear can be real or imaginary. Fear makes people do strange things. It primarily comes from a lack of understanding. To live in fear is to live in an emotional prison. Fear results in insecurity, lack of confidence, and procrastination. It destroys our potential and ability. We cannot think straight. Fear ruins relationships and health. Some common fears are fear of failing, fear of the unknown, fear of being unprepared, fear of making the wrong decision, fear of rejection. Some fear can be described as other can only be felt. Fear leads to anxiety, which in turn leads to irrational thinking. And this actually sabotages to our ability to solve problems. The normal response to fear is escape. Escape puts us in a comfort zone and reduces the impact of fear temporarily. While the cause remains, imaginary fears magnify the problem. Fear can get out of hand and destroy happiness and relationships. Think of fear of a meaning. Fear of failure is often worse than failure itself. Failure is not worst thing that can happen to someone. People who don't try have failed even before attempting. When infants learn to walk, they keep failing, but to them it is not failing, it is learning. If they become disheartened, they would never walk. It is better to die no one's feet than to live with fear on one's knees. Number 14. Inability to use talent. Albert Einstein said, I think I use about 25% of my intellectual capacity during my life. According to William James, human beings use only 10 to 12% of their potential. The saddest part of most people's life is that they die with the music still in them. They haven't lived life while alive. They rust out rather than wear out. I would rather wear out than rust out. The saddest word in life are I should have. Rusting out is not to be confused with patience. Patience is a conscious decision. It is active and involves perseverance and persistence. Rusting out is idleness and passivity. Someone asked an elderly person, what is life's heaviest burden? The elderly person replied sadly, to have nothing to carry. Number 15. Lack of discipline. You have a choice in life. You can either pay the price of discipline or regret. Have you ever wondered why some people never reach their goals? Why they are always frustrated with reversals and crises? Why do some people have continued success while others have endless failures? Anyone who has accomplished anything worthwhile has never done so without discipline. Whether in sport, athletics, academia, or business, people without discipline try to do everything but commit themselves to nothing. Some so called liberator thinkers have interpreted lack of discipline as freedom. When I'm in an aircraft, I want a pilot who is disciplined and does what he is supposed to do and not what feels like doing. I don't want him to have the philosophy. I'm free. I don't want anyone from the control tower telling me what to do. Lack of consistency is poor discipline. Discipline takes self control, sacrifice, and avoiding distractions and not temptations. It means staying focused. Steam does not move the engine unless it is confined. Niagara Falls would not generate power unless it was harnessed. We all know the story of the tortoise and the hare. The hare bragged about his speed and challenged the tortoise to a race. The tortoise accepted the challenge. They appointed a fox as a judge. The race started and the tortoise kept going slowly, but the hare sprinted off. He quickly left the tortoise behind. As he was confident of winning the race, he decided to take a nap. By the time he woke up, remembered the race and resumed running, and Tortoise had already reached the finish line and won. Consistency takes discipline and is more important than erratic effort. Discipline and regret are both painful. Most people have a choice between or two. Guess which is more painful? Generally, children brought up with excessive freedom and a lack of discipline grow up not respecting themselves. Their parents or society have a hard time expecting responsibilities. Poor self-esteem. Poor self-esteem is lack of less self-respect and self-worth. It leads to abuse of oneself and other. Ego takes the driver's seat. Decisions are taken more satisfy the ego than to accomplish anything worthwhile. People with low self-esteem and constantly looking for identity, they are trying to find themselves. Oneself is not to be found but to be created. Idleness and laziness are consequences of self esteem, and so is making excuses. Idleness is like rust that eats into the most brilliant matter. Number 17. Lack of knowledge. The first step toward knowledge is awareness of areas of ignorance. The more knowledge of a person gets, the person who thinks he knows everything has the most to learn. Ignorant people don't know they are ignorant. They don't know that they don't know. In fact, more than ignorance The bigger problem is the illusion of the knowledge. Because when you think you know something but don't, your decision making will be flawed. Number 18. Fatalistic attitude. A fatalistic attitude prevents people from accepting responsibility for their circumstances. People with fatalistic attitude attribute success and failure to luck. They resign themselves to their fate. They accept the predestined future written in their horoscope or stars. They believe that regardless of their effort and whether has to happen will happen, hence they never put in any effort, and complacency become a way to life. They wait for things to happen rather than making them. Success is a matter of luck. Ask any failure. Weak-minded people fall easy prey to fourth-line tellers, horoscope, and self-proclaimed God-men who are sometimes con-men. They become superstitious and ritualistic. Some people consider a rabbit's foot lucky, but it wasn't lucky for the rabbit, was it? If you want to fail, believe in luck. If you want to succeed, believe in the principle of cause and effect, and you will create your own luck. As Samuel Glaudin said, the harder I work, the luckier I get. The harder I work, the luckier I get. Some people think they are just unlucky. This breeds a fantastic attitude. People who get involved half-heartedly say things like, I will give it a try. I will see if it works. I will give it a shot. I have nothing to lose. I haven't put much into it anyway. If you think like this, you will be sure to fail because you will have no dedication or determination. These thinking patterns show a lack of courage, commitment, and confidence. Attempting half-heartedly is like expecting failure and achieving it. Effort does it. A man brought a rich horse and put him in a barn with a big sand. The fastest horse in the world, the owner didn't exercise the horse nor train it to keep it good shape. He entered the horse in a race and it came last. The owner quickly charged the sign to the fastest word for the horse by enacting or not doing what should be done. People fail and blame luck. Life without vision, courage, and depth is simply a blind experience. Small, lazy, and weak minds always take the easiest way. Part of least resistance are athletes train 15 years for 15 seconds of performance. Ask them if they got lucky. Ask an athlete how he feels after a good workout. He will tell you that he feels spent. If he doesn't feel that way, it means he hasn't worked out of his maximum ability. Losers think life is unfair. They think only their bad breaks. They don't consider that the person who is prepared and playing well is still got the same bad breaks but overcame them. Thus, their hold for tolerating pain becomes higher because in the end he is not training just for game as for his character. Luck favors those who help themselves. A flood was threatening a small town, and everyone was leaving for safe ground except for one man who said, God will save me. I have faith. As the water level rose, a jeep came to rescue him. The man refused, saying, God will save me. I have faith. As the water level rose further, he went up to the second story of his house, and the boat came to help him. Again he refused to go, saying, God will save me. I have faith. The water kept rising and the rain man climbed on the roof. A man helicopter came to rescue him, but he said God will save me. I have faith. Well, finally he drawed. When he rescued his maker, he angrily questioned, I had complete faith in you. Why did you ignore my prayers and let me drown? The Lord replied, who do you think sent you to the jeep, the boat, and the helicopter? The only way to overcome fatalistic attitude is to accept responsibility and believe in the law of cause and effect rather than luck. It takes action, preparation, and planning rather than waiting, wondering and wishing to accomplish any goal in life. Luck shines on the deserving. Alexander Graham Bell was desperately trying to even a hearing aid for his partially deaf wife. He failed at inventing a hearing aid, but in the progress, he discovered the principle of the telephone. You wouldn't call someone like that lucky, would you? Good luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Without effort and preparation, lucky confidences don't happen. Luck. He worked by day and toiled by night. He gave up play and some delight. Dried book he read, new things to learn, and forget ahead some success to earn. He plodded on with fan and plug, and when he won, man called it luck. Point 9. Point 19. Lack of purpose. Great minds have purposes, others have wishes. If we read stories of people who have overcome serious disabilities, it is evident that their burning desire to succeed was their driving force. They had a purpose in life. They, they wanted to prove to themselves they could succeed in spite of all odds, and they did. Desired what made the paralytic Velima Rudolph the fastest woman on the track at this 1960 Olympics, winning 3 gold medals. According to Glenn Cunningham, desire is what made a boy with burnt lung set the world record in the 1 mile run. At the age of 5, a polio victim started swimming to regain strength because of her desire to succeed. She won the gold at the 1956 Olympics at Melbourne. Her name is Shirley Mann. When people lack purpose and direction, they see no opportunity. If a person has a desire to accomplish something, knows the direction to move on to achieve his objective, has the dedication to stay focused, and has the discipline required to put in the hard work, then success follows. But if you don't have purpose and direction, it doesn't matter what else you have, you won't succeed. Character is the foundation upon which all else is built. It endures. Point 20. Lack of courage. Successful people do not look for miracles or easy tasks. They seek courage and strength to overcome obstacles. They look at what is left rather than what is lost. Wishes don't come true. Beliefs and expectations supported by conviction do. Prayers are only answered when they are supported with courageous action. Courage and the character are the critical combination for success. This is the difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary. When our minds are filled with courage, we forget our fears and overcome obstacles. Courage is not absence of fear, but the overcoming fear. Character. Justice and integrity without courage is ineffective, whereas courage without character is oppression. A recipe for success. Success is like baking a cake. Unless you have just the right recipe, it is not going to work. The ingredients must be of the finest quality and in the right proportions. You can't overbake it or undercook it. Once you have the correct recipe with practice and learning from the essential mishap, it becomes a lot easier. You have the recipe, whether or not to use it is your choice. A crash course for success. Play to win and not to lose. Learn from other people's mistakes. Associate with other people of high moral character. Give more than you get. Don't look for something for nothing. Always think long term. Evaluate your strengths and build on them. Always keep the larger picture in mind when making a decision. Never compromise your integrity. Here is our chapter number 5, motivation. I believe in two premises. Most people are good people, but they can do better, and most people already know what to do to improve their lives. The question is, why aren't they doing it? What is missing is the spark, motivation. Some self help books adopt the approach of teaching what to do. I take a different approach. I ask, why don't you do it? If you ask people on the street what should be done, they will give you all the correct answers, but ask them whether they are doing it, and the answer will be no. What is lacking is motivation. The most powerful motivation comes from within our belief system to move into action. We need to believe in what we do and accept responsibility for our life. When we accept responsibility for our behavior and actions, our attitude toward life becomes positive and we become more productive both personally and professionally. Our relationships improve both at home and at work. Life becomes more meaningful and fulfilling. After a person's basic physical needs are met, emotional needs become a bigger motivator. Every behavior comes out of the pain or gain principle. If the pain is greater than the gain, that is a deterrent to action. If the gain is greater than the pain, that is a motivator. Gains can be tangible, such as monetary rewards. Vacation and gifts. They can also be intangible, such as recognition, appreciation, sense of achievement, growth, responsibility, sense of fulfillment, self worth, accomplish, and belief. Let's define motivation. The next logical question is, what is motivation? Motivation is a drive that encourages actions or feeling. To motivation means to encourage and inspire. Motivation can also mean igniting the spark for action. Motivation is powerful, it can persuade, convince, and propel you into action. In other words, motivation can be defined as motive for action. It is a force that can literally change your life. Why do we need to get motivated? Motivation is the driving force in our life. It comes from a desire to succeed. Without success, there is a little pride in life, no enjoyment or excitement at work, at home. Life becomes like a lopsided wheel giving a bumpy ride. The greatest enemy of motivation is complacency. Complacency leads to lack of effort, and when people are complacent, they don't grow because they cannot, or complacent don't grow because they cannot identify what is needed in their lives. Motivation, how does it work? Once you understand what causes motivation, you can motivate yourself and achieve your goals. And you can motivate others too. Your internal motivation is your drive and attitude. It is contagious. Your attitude are the key of getting the response you want from others. How does a person stay motivated and focused? One important tool that has been used by athletes for a long time is auto suggestion. Auto suggestions are positive statements made in the present tense and repeated regularly. In other words, it is positive self talk. For example, let's say you are just starting a new job. Several times each day, you might say to yourself, I feel more and more confident every day. Or let's say your teenage son is going through a stage where everything he says seems to irritate you. You might repeat to yourself, I will be calm and patient when I talk to John. What is the difference between inspiration and motivation? I conduct seminars internationally, and people often ask me if I can motivate others. The answer is no, I cannot. People motivate themselves. What can I do, however, is inspire them to motivate themselves. People can create an environment that is motivating. Inspiration is thought, motivation is action. When thinking changes, it reflects in behavior. In order to inspire people to motivate themselves, we need to understand their needs and wants. What is the greatest motivator? Is it money, recognition, improvement in quality of life, acceptance by those well loved? All of these can be motivating forces. People will do a lot for money, more for a good leader, but do the most for a belief. People die for their beliefs. This happens every day, all over the world. When we believe that we are responsible for our lives and our behaviors, our outlook towards life changes for the better. Motivation is like fire unless you keep adding fuel to it. It dies. Your fuel is your belief in your inner value. When this belief in inner values feed your motivation becomes long lasting. Internal and external motivation. Motivation is classified into two types, external and internal. External motivation. External motivation comes from outside. Examples of external motivators are money, social approval, fame, or fear. For example, fear of getting spanked by parents or fear of getting fired at work. Fear motivation. A company wanted to set up a pension plan. In order for the plan to be implemented, it needed 100% participants. Everyone signed up except John. The plan made sense and was in the best interest of everyone. John's refusal to sign was only obstacle. John's supervisor and other co-workers had tried without success to persuade him to sign. The owner of the company called John into his office and said, John, here is a pen and these are the papers. For you to sign it, enroll into the pension plan. If you don't enroll, you are fired this minute. John signed. The owner asked John why he had signed earlier. John replied, no one explained the plan quite as clearly as you did. It is not uncommon to see the prey outsmarting the predator because no one is running for its food and the other for its life. The advantages of fair motivation are it gets the jobs quickly, it prevents losses by meeting deadlines. In the short run, the person's performance may improve. We learn from history that the pyramids were built by slaves. They had to be constantly watched and reprimanded for non performance. The disadvantages of fair motivation are it is external, which means the motivation is free while the motivator is there. When a motivator goes, the motivation also goes. It causes stress. Performance is limited to compliance. In the long run, performance goes down. It destroys creativity. People get used to the stick and then a bigger stick is needed. People who do just enough to get by so they don't get fired will never be valued to any organization. A customer asked an employee, when did you start working here? He replied, ever since they threatened to fire me. Incentive motivation. External motivation can also take the form of incentives, bonuses, commission, recognition, and so forth. The major advantage of incentive motivation is that it works very well as long as the incentive is strong enough. Think of a donkey with a carrot dangling in front of pulling a cart behind. Incentive motivation will work if the donkey is hungry enough, the carrot is sweet enough, and the load light enough. From time to time, you have to let the donkey take a bite of the carrot. Otherwise, it is going to get discouraged. After the donkey takes a bite, its stomach is full. And you need to wait for the donkey to get hungry again before it will pull the cart. The same cycle is typically seen in our business environment. The moment salespeople meet their quotas, they stop working. This is because their motivation is limited to meeting their quotas. There is external motivation, not internal. Internal motivation. There was a young boy who came regularly to soccer practice but never made it to the starting team. While he was practicing, his father would sit at the far end of the field. 4 days the boy did not show up for practice or the quarters or semi-finals. He appeared for the final game, went to the coach and said, Coach, you have always kept me in the reserve and never let me play in the games. But today, please let me play. The coach said, Son, I'm sorry. I can't let you. There are better players than you, and besides, it is final. The reputation of the school is at stake, and I cannot take a chance on you. The boy pleaded, Coach, I promise I will not let you down. I beg of you, please let me play. The coach had never seen a boy play like this before. He said, Okay, son, go play. But remember, I am going against my better judgment and the reputation of the school is at stake. Don't let me down. The game started and the boy played like a house on fire. Every time he got the ball, he shot a goal. Needless to say, he was the star of the game. His team had a spectacular win. When the game finished, the coach went up to him and said, "Son, how could I have been so wrong? I have never seen you play like this before. What happened? How did you play so well?" The boy replied, "Coach, my father is watching me today." The coach turned around and looked at the place where the boy's father used to sit. There was no one there. He said, "Son, your father used to sit there when you came for practice, but I don't see anyone there today." The boy replied, "Coach, there is something I never told you. My father was blind just 4 days ago. He died. Today is the first day he is watching me from above." Internal motivation comes from within success as pride, a sense of achievement, responsibility, and belief. Internal motivation is the inner gratification not for success or winning, but for the fulfillment that comes from having done it. It is a feeling of accomplishment rather than just achieving a goal. Reaching an unworthy goal does not produce the gratifying feeling. Internal motivation is lasting because it comes from within and translates into self motivation. Motivation needs to be identified and constantly strengthened to succeed. Write down your goals, keep them in front of you, and read them morning and evening. The two most important internal motivators are recognition and responsibility. Recognize, Recognition means being appreciated, being treated with respect and dignity. Feeling a sense of belonging, people responsibility gives a person a feeling of belonging and ownership. He then becomes a part of the bigger picture. Lack of responsibility is demotivating. Recognition is external because it originates from outside. Through its manifestation, feeling are internal. Responsibility is internal as it originates from within. Take the case of Jill, a customer service representative who had been on the job for 6 years. A relatively long time in a job that had a high turnover rate. Jill liked her job. She liked taking with customer and being a problem solver. What she didn't like was the fact that most of the other customer service reps who had been there less than 2 years were on equal footing with her. Jill was frustrated and discouraged that many of the other reps were not willing to listen to her suggestions. When they did have a problem, they did go to the manager for help, even though the manager didn't have the frontline experience that Jill did. The manager began to notice that Jill's performance was not bad. It was not as good as it had been. And Jill no longer seemed to be happy with her job, not wanting to lose such a valuable employee. The manager gave Jill a raise, but Jill's attitude about the job did not change. While more money is always nice, what Jill was looking for was respect. When the manager finally spent some time talking with Jill and discovered the source of her dissatisfaction, the manager gave Jill the title of supervisor and told the other reps that all problems were go to through Jill. Jill's increased responsibility fueled her need for respect and her performance immediately improved. Monetary rewards are temporary and short lived. They are not gratifying in the long run. In construct, seeing an idea being implemented can be emotionally gratifying by itself. People feel that they are not being treated like objects. They feel part of a worthwhile team. The reward of doing the right thing by itself is motivating. We all are motivated either positive or negatively. When I was in Tornado, I heard a story of two brothers. One was a drug addict and a drunk who frequently beat up his family. The other was a very successful businessman who had respected in society and had a wonderful family. How could two brothers raised by the same parents, brought up in the same environment, be so different? The first brother was asked, "What makes you do what you do? You are a drug addict, a drunk, and you beat your family. What motivates you?" He answered, "My father. My father was a drug addict, a drunk, and he beat his family. What do you expect me to be? That is what I am." The second brother was asked, "How come you are doing everything right? What is your source of motivation?" And guess what he said? "My father. When I was a little boy, I used to see my father drunk and doing all the wrong things. I made up my mind that this is not what I wanted to be." Both brothers drive their motivation from the same source, but one was using it positively and the other negatively. Negative motivation brings a desire to take the easier way, which ends up being the tougher way on the job. The four stages from motivation to demotivation. When people start a job, they often move through stages of motivation and competence. Number one, motivated ineffective. Number one, motivated ineffective. When is an employee most motivated in the cycle of employment? When he joins an organization. Why? Because he wants to prove that by hiring him, the employer made the right decision. He is motivated, but because he is new to the environment, he does not know what to do. He is ineffective. This is the stage when the employee is most open minded, is receptive, and easy to mold to the culture of the organization. Training and oriented become imperative. Unprofessional organizations have no or very poor oriented programs. The first day at the job, the supervisor shows a new employee his place of work and tell him what to do and leaves. He teaches all the employee quickly, learns all the mistake the supervisor is making because that is what he has been taught. The organization loses the opportunity to mold the individuals to its culture. Professional organizations, on the other hand, take special care to induct people into their organizations. They explain to them, among other things, the following: the hierarchy, expectations of each other, do's or don'ts, perimeters or guideline, what is acceptable and what is not, to resources. How can one accept performance unless expectations are met clear up front? If induction and orientation are done well, many potential problems would not surface at all. Point 2. Motivated effective. This is the stage when the employee has learned what to do and does it with drive and energy. He has learned the trade and it reflects in his performance. Then he moves on to the stage. Point 3. Demotivated effective. After some time, the motivated level goes down and the employee starts learning the tricks of the trade. This is the stage when the employee is not motivated. He continues doing just enough so that the employer has no reason to fire him, but he is really not motivated. This stage is detrimental to growth. Most people in organizations fall into his third stage. A motivated professional learns the trade and leaves the trick to cheats and crooks. But a demotivated employee starts sabotaging the company. His performance is marginal. He makes fun of the good performers. He rejects new ideas and spreads the negativity all around. Our objective is to bring them back to the state of motivated, effective through training. An employee ought not to stay in the third stage too long because from here either they move back to the second stage. From here either they move back to the second stage, which is being motivated and effective, or they move into the fourth stage. Number 4. Demotivated, ineffective. At this stage, the employer does not have much choice but to fire the employee, which may be the most appropriate thing to do anyway at this point. Remember, employers want the same thing as employees do. They want to succeed and improve business. And if employees help in this objective, then they make themselves valuable and achieve their own success. Demotivating factors. Why do people move from intentionally motivated stage to demotivated? Some of the demotivating factors: unfair criticism, negative criticism, public humiliation, rewarding the non performance, which can be demotivating for the performers, failure or fears of failure, success which leads to complaints, lack of direction, lack of measurable objectives, low self esteem, lack of priorities, negative self talk, office politics, office politics, unfair treatment, hypocrisy, poor standards, frequent change, responsibility without authority. A satisfied person is not necessarily a motivated person. Some people are satisfied with very little. In this case, satisfaction may lead to complacence. Motivation comes from excitement, and excitement does not come unless there is full commitment. New methods of motivation will not work till the demotivating factor are removed. Many times, just removing the demotivating factors can speak motivation. Motivator. When we really want to accomplish is self motivation, when people do things for their own reason and not yours. That is lasting motivation. Remember, the greatest motivator is belief. We have to inculcate in ourselves to believe that we are responsible for our actions and behavior. When people accept responsibility, everything improves: quality, productivity, relationships, and teamwork. A few steps to motivate others: give recognition, give respect, make work interesting, be a good listener, encourage goals, provide opportunity for growth. Prove training through a challenge, help but don't do for others what they should do for themselves. Conclusion: people do things for their own reasons, not yours. This is illustrated by a story about Ralph Waldo Emerson. He and his sons were struggling to get a calf into the barn. Both father and son were exhausted pulling and pushing. A little girl was passing by. She put her little finger into the calf's mouth, allowing it to suck, and the calf lovingly followed her to the barn. So this is all for this today live session. Thanks for joining.